right, good evening. It's Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time again. And boy, the hits just keep on rolling. Doesn't the Michigan State, or don't the Michigan State and say Maryland games feel like they were 2.5 months ago and not just I think what Maryland was 10 days ago, maybe? Holy cow. But quite a lot has happened since then. It's like, shoot, what was it? After the Maryland game, we're just becoming known as that fourth quarter team after dominating three straight fourth quarters, like 43-9 or something like that. And then Penn State fires their coach, and everybody's now is just announcing that Rhule's the front runner. Matt Rhule's the front runner. They're all saying done deal. I just don't know about that. It would just seem, and we talked about it some last week, but it just feels like, well, not to insult Rhule this way, but just for the reasons. It feels like it would be a Mike Riley hire for Penn State, right? Because we fired Bo. The story was, well, the real story was that our athletic director was a wimpy little bitch, and Bo intimidated him, and he liked to hide in his office, pretend he wasn't there, and all that. And so he wanted somebody who was as soft as he was. So. But we fire Bo because he can't get over the hump, and we hire a guy who's barely even been to the hump. And so Penn State is firing James Franklin. The two losses as 20-point plus favorites aside, the big reason was, though, we're finally sick of it. The Oregon game nagged at him. A lot of the alums had been after him for a while, but the story was he can't win the big one against top 10 teams, ranked teams, that sort of thing. But you're bringing in a guy who has an even worse record against top 10 teams if you hire Matt Rhule. So that was kind of the thinking there. And so anyway, and that still we were feeling a lot better about things. And then we go up to Minneapolis and boom, upset. And let's take care of some business first. Fred was first in. The contest is, I'll post it sometimes the night before, sometimes midday, the day of, but I'll post it on so it'll show up on YouTube, and you can go in and the comments are open and say, hey, I was here first. So Fred was here first, and it's let's see, and what do we have to say for that? I think we can give Fred some applause now. So congratulations. There's gonna be applause and some door prizes you'll never see for being first in the comments. And Fred said first, unlike Nebraska in anything except for having a terrible offensive line. Got that nailed down like a Husker lineman's feet out of his stance. So we're probably going to talk about that a lot tonight. Stephen Villainous is second. Hi, Stephen. And he is also feeling a little better today. So very, very good. If you're not feeling great, we still expect you here. You got to play hurt. We all know this. And also, my son Drew, better known as Mustang 6197s, says the irritable cat and I are here to annoy you. I mentioned his irritable cat in one of my pregame articles this weekend, and he's not going to let me forget it. I went up to Minneapolis. Drew lives in Eagan up there, so he was nice enough to let me stay with him and his cat that hates everyone. But I tell you what, I think that cat was really warming up to me. Seriously, it hung out in the room with me. It laid down, within 5-10 feet of me, and and I only half terrorized it once, bear crawling toward it for an attack, and it just, well, what the hell is this, and ran back in the closet in Drew's room, but came back out. Pitt Snipe says hey to everybody, and Fred also says hey to everybody in his own lovable way, and we're off and running. Before I get started, if any of you, I'd just like to go ahead and recommend the occasional movie, sports or not. And I was watching one. I'll have something on in the background as I'm researching and whatnot and getting ready for the show. And it's like me and some buddies. I think it came out 2 years ago. And I think there's a sequel that might have jumped in and out this summer that should be streaming, but it was called Sisu. Sisu. And if you haven't seen it and you like a good bloody action movie, this is the one for you. It's it's about like a retired Finnish soldier at the end of World War II, and he's taking on pretty much all the Germans in Finland, and that's all you need to know to get started. And, and yeah, he's, let's just say he's pretty tough to kill, and really throws himself into violence. And it's one of those that's so over the top. It's funny at times. But a lot of times you're just going, holy shit, what did I just see? So Sisu, SISU, currently streaming on, let me see, I think I still had it up here. I think it was on Disney or Hulu maybe. I've got the whole Disney, Hulu, ESPN package. So I'm going to assume they just throw all their movies up there on the main screen. But I'm going to assume that's not Disney, that Sisu's from and the Hulu family. So Sisu on Hulu, you won't be sorry. And since we're getting near Halloween here, if you throw in as we go along the show, I'll just kind of read them off. Your favorite horror movie of all time, or your top 3, or something like that. Let us know what your horror movies are, and then we can determine how deranged you really are. Let's see what else we hear. Pit Snipe says, because I think he just got fired, Sam Pittman is home on the couch. Go get him and lock down the entire rest of the staff. That done. I don't think I care what Rule does. I don't think we're firing Rule yet, are we? It's like, this is, I don't know, this is our Indiana game this year, so we'll see. We're going to talk about it all. Don't worry. And Drew assures me that she is what's her actual name? I just call her like the Rotten Cat and the little bitch and stuff like that. But she's gotten much calmer in the 3 years he's had her. That's true. The first time I ever visited with her, which was probably her first year, she barely came out from under the bed. By the weekend, she'd come in the room and get like 10 to 15 feet away. And he thought he heard her. He said she must have been up sniffing me close while I was sleeping one night, because he heard me rustle around, and then just heard this, and the thing ran off. So she really does seem sweet. She lets him play with her. Then my ex-wife goes up there and approaches her like loudly with arms waving, and just puts her under the bed still. So okay, yeah, Fred saw Sisu. Where do you go here? Oh, here we go. Yeah, Fred says Sisu is great, and kind of, yeah, it's like it's World War II. It's 1944. So, but it is, yeah, kind of a little like John Wick, only older guy. Yeah, you won't be sorry. The Catalyst is here and says hello, Porn Nation. You know what? We're gonna take that as a compliment, that you think that anyone involved here, especially myself, should be involved in anything naked for others to watch. So good for you. Highlander Gun is in the house. It said what got me was when Rule, I was there Monday, so let's see, was addressing the Penn State question. He said he was going to finish what he started this year. Sounds to like like he was giving himself an out at the end of the season. But then he also said, I'm sure Pat Kraft will find the right coach, and he also said, he actually had on said, I've left 2 other programs after 3 years. I really want to see how far we can take this. So I feel like the messages he's sending are stronger for staying than leaving. I don't know if he's even getting offered the job. Is kind of where I am. Because it sounds like he and Kraft aren't friends, so that someday Kraft could hire him back, and they're just got to be friends no matter what. Let's see. Oh, and Fred with the dad joke. Well, it's better than some of the jokes. His favorite horror movie was the Scott Frost era. You know what? I'll take the Scott Frost team that's against Mike Riley's team any day, and they'd be double-digit favorites every time. The record wasn't there, but he left that team so much faster and stronger than he found it. And I will, for all the shit that was wrong with his tenure, I will defend him on that. Let's see, and okay, now we've got Fred going with the porn, and you said porn, and now Fred's just on a rip here. My name is Fred, and I love watching porn. I'm the real Fred. Catalyst, yep, here we are now. And so he was firing Catalyst, spamming. Perpetually Indignant is here. Hello, kids. Hello, Perpetually. Fred wants to ban Fred Sacco for impersonating him. Oh God! So we got a Fred impersonator. And okay, well, we're gonna skip past this and get going here. But anyway, yeah, throw in your horror films, and let's just go straight to. Oh, I want to tell my press box story. So, as most people know, as most people are aware, our fearless leader John a few years ago did a little, let's just call it a rant at the end of the game on the field. He does videos after games and kind of lost his mind. I believe as Mitch Sherman did a story on him in the Athletic and posted the YouTube video on there, which got it I think it got over a million. It got over a million looks. I think I'd have to check, but anyway, let's see. Yeah, I'd probably hold on just a moment here. Let's see. We'll try this, and we'll try this, and see if that slows some things down for a while. Okay, let's see. All right, on we go. So anyway, John did his little rant at the end of it. He called that he was even kind of laughing when he said it. I think he had the band and some students still celebrating in the far end zone, and he's like, "Laugh it up, you goof bastards," or something like that. So anyway, it's like nothing happened. But then when the video went viral, Minnesota basically gave him the boot. Said like credentials, no more credentials, for the foreseeable future, or some indefinitely or whatever, makes it sound like it's infinite. So so I got credentials. I and our photographer got credentials, and I roll in. I don't think this was intentional. I get the email, from the guy saying, your credentials are approved. Your credential has been printed, and I show up for the game and no credential. So yeah, nothing there. I'm not in their system, et cetera, et cetera. She tries calling up. He hasn't heard of me, and so yeah, here I got the email. You guys have heard of me. So they nicely give me my own, and thank God she was giving it to me, because then they do. Whoops, I'll talk about him later. So I get like your little, peel off sticker from an old dot matrix printer from, the little stickers from Office Depot. They handwrite my name and coordination on it, and then they also inform me. I mean, I'd like to say very nice lady, but at this point, it's almost like I'm the problem here, and she says, "Oh, and by the way, the press box is full today, so there won't be a place for you to sit there." And I'm like, "Well, okay, that's kind of the whole point of coming, is having a view of the field and a place to work." Well, you could work in. They have a media workroom. I'm like, does that have a window to the field? Well, no, it might have a TV. I'm not sure. And I'm like, you know what? In my head, I'm like, I don't think I believe you. I'm just heading up. So I head up, and yeah, there's the chart, and there's probably about 25 open seats on the chart. It looks full, but one rule of the press box is you got a lot of people that get the press pass, and then they just want to run around making their videos and whatnot, and snippets, and you'll never see them actually sitting in the chair upstairs. Whereas I'm there, got my rig, I'm typing, I'm doing articles before middle end of game. So anyway, yeah, I actually find a better seat than they probably would have assigned me, is like the farthest down and like the closest view of the field. And so, and you might laugh here, because I didn't really realize until I took this picture that I freaking look like I'm dressed as a Minnesota fan with the colors there. It's just like a light hiking hoodie, and then a hat with a picture of a buffalo on it. I think or a moose on it. I think I've worn it on the show a couple of times. But yeah, it occurs to me I'm walking around looking like I'm from Minnesota. I'm like, well, if I'm going to do that, I'll just bring all red next time. But anyway, yeah, ended up with a seat, actually a seat with open seats next to me. And I even took a picture of, here's their pack, and I'm in the front row, which is always the longest one. The higher you go, the more comfortable the seats get and all that. So I'm still at the kids' table. But here is your packed press box about 30 minutes before kickoff, maybe 45. and like I think that guy there was maybe the closest one to me when the game started, and a few more people came down. But yeah, yep. Come on, what the hell are you telling me? There's no room, Anyway, so I did enjoy eating a little extra of their food. So anyway, that was the fun, and I heard like two more guys talking in the bathroom one time when I was in there about how they screwed up one of their press passes, and the other one they screwed up a press pass for a dude who's one of those guys that like has his name on a building on campus. I didn't feel too bad when they're messing with their donors that hard. So anyway, yeah, that was kind of fun. And I was like, "Are you guys? Is this payback for John?" I'm like, no, and it wasn't, but it was just goofy behavior. So anyway, let's take one more look at the comments here and then get rolling. And it looks like we've got some we got some people trying to troll us tonight. So I'll try and take care of that as best I can. Let's see. Yeah, because they're starting to pile up in here. And yes, Snap says, "Sack, if I'm honest, I'm a little impressed that he stole a pic of you for his avatar." So yeah, that was fine. Steve Villainous says, "I love John. I died in '72 and never been to a home game." Well, huh? Yeah. Interesting. Let's see. Let me get rid of another Fred here. Let's see. Okay, Dustin Waterman with the horror show says 28 weeks later was pretty wild when it came out. Probably one of my favorite horror movies. Yeah, because what was it? 28 days later, then 28 weeks later, and then 28 years later, I think was out this summer. I heard good things about it. No, it's fine. I knew what you meant, and there was a weeks later because they went days, weeks, years. Let's see. 28 days, weeks, and years. And I haven't seen Years. Hopefully that'll be streaming here pretty quickly. Let's see. What else we got? John ruins everything, doesn't he? I disagree. John, we all love to give him a hard time, but I love John. There's no one I'd rather be doing this and being able to call that guy the Grand Poobah. Okay, let's see. Incognito. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah, my colors are right away. They caught the colors there. Fred, yep. I noticed your colors right away. Yeah, I did not realize that. Yeah, nope. Yep, there's my son. A lot of Minnesota fans stay with me. Oh God. Oh, I couldn't be one. That means I'd have to cheer on PJ and damn him. Let's see. Yeah, Fred, I read your one message here, so yeah, if you want to if any others sneak in, keep pointing it out, and I'll keep letting the boot fly. Night of the Scarecrow scared the shit out of me as a kid. I don't know if I've heard of that one. Yeah, Fred, if you want to give just a quick description down, I'll read it because that one I have not heard. Yeah. Oh, whoa! There we go. Pitt's Night, Fright Night, the original Fright Night. The newer one with wasn't bad with Colin Farrell, but yeah, nothing can touch that original because it starts off kind of goofy and Fright Night gets really really scary. I like Fright Night. And also, that was what's her name for the next door neighbor, Chicken Legs. That Al called her on Married with Children. As a younger and pretty damn cute girlfriend in that movie. Let's see. Oh, okay. Dustin Waterman said he started 28 years later, but wasn't able to get very far into it. Not because it wasn't good, but kids wouldn't let me continue. Let's see. Got a Hawk fan in. Hawk fan here. Your season's not over. I see 8-4 will smack Minnesota this week. Yeah, what's funny is I went up and watched Drew, my son, play some drop-in hockey. Met a few of his buddies. Now he had a buddy who was a Minnesota fan and said there's just no teams in the world that he hated worse than Nebraska and Iowa. So got the whole border thing going there. I like it. let's see. Yeah, well, I don't think this is a movie, but Highlander's ex-mother-in-law scared the shit out of him as an adult. So, for what that's worth, um, yeah. Okay, here we go. Night of the Scarecrow is a guy who's slow like Diaco. Yeah, not slow. Is he a pretty boy that farmers kill when he's hiding as a scarecrow? He comes back to life and gets them all. Oh, kind of like a farmhouse Candyman. I like it. I like it. Uh, oh no, High Mountain Guy for movies, just horror movies, just no particular genre. It's just near Halloween, so throw out a horror movie. Yeah, 20. Let's see. And I've heard this too. I've heard good, but I've heard not as good as they're selling it for 28 years later. So way too many dongs. Okay, that I don't need a sausage factory in a movie. You know, hey, to each his own. Spent enough time in the locker room, saw plenty. Uh, what else? Let's see. Almost got it. Oh, he's the Iowa fan that hates Nebraska and Minnesota. That's right. I forgot. I just assumed because we were in Minnesota. Okay. Was also pissed about how poorly Nebraska played. That's pretty good when two teams you hate are playing each other. Then you get pissed at one of them for not playing well enough. It perpetually says his guilty pleasure horror movie franchise is Puppet Master. I love Hellraiser too. Yeah, I don't know that I ended up seeing all the Hellraisers, but the original Hellraiser was fantastic. I love the original Hellraiser, and there was another Clive Barker one that starred like Craig Sheffer. He was the bad guy in one of the John Hughes movies. Maybe it was Some Kind of Wonderful. And in this one, yeah, it was. Oh, and there's this, like, in northern Canada, there's this place where monsters can go live in peace. You know, just people with weird monster abilities, just from just Clive Barker's imagination, and run with that. 28 years later sounds. That's our. We got our ding ding ding. Hold on, I got to start remembering I have these. Oops, go back. Let's see. Do I have it? Yeah. There we go. This will do. There we go. It's the Tuesday night Fred Sacco Camp Kenosha alert. So, we're not rolling in the comments until the Camp Kenosha. James Boardman's going with the Happy Hooker as his favorite horror movie. Thank you, James. Not what we said, and I think you know that, but we're gonna allow that. We're gonna put that on the scoreboard. So the Happy Hooker is now one of those. Boy, I'm not gonna say it. I was gonna say that's an older one. So a lot more of X on screen. Okay, let's see. Oh, 30 Days of Night, one of my favorite stories from a comic, and an awesome jump. 30 Days of Night is wonderful. That's Josh Hartnett and the vampires up in the Barrow, Alaska, or the farthest city north in Alaska, where they basically everybody leaves town for 30 days when it's all just dark. Okay, that's a very creepy, very good one. That one, yeah, I like it. Pit Snipe says Christine was the first VHS movie I ever saw on the home Philco console. Yep, rented VCR. Dad got Animal House and Christine for us. I didn't like the movie as much as I did the book. I mean, you usually say that. It was good. It was all right, and I thought it was cast pretty well. But man, that book had me about in tears at the end, because really what it's about is just a guy losing his best friend at the end of the day because of that fucking car. And I mean, the book really hit me, and because every now and then King will do that. It'll hit you when you're not looking. The movie was decent, but I like the book better. Let's see. Tell you what. I'm gonna leave a pen in this one here, so I know where to find it, and we're gonna get going on the football a little bit, and we'll come back to the horror movies later, because I've got two that really kind of top the list for me, and I want to give you those. So anyway, I always like to go with the drive chart, and the thing is, it was, I was so happy we were taking points, because I don't think fourth down might have gone that great for us. But the game starts off, and I just feel like we're the better team, and we just need to break through, because like we trade 3 and outs with Minnesota, and then we we drive 70 yards, and forced to kick a field goal. And then I think it was the second one. And then we have another 3 and out. And then in the second quarter, we drive 69 yards and get forced to kick a field goal. And I think that was basically because of Pritchett's targeting. And I'll just say this about that. It was a 15-yard penalty. It just should have been unnecessary roughness. When, you jump on a guy on the ground, you're going to get that 15. But I thought it was a little ridiculous to call that targeting when he's clearly leading with the hands. That's not targeting. The helmet comes in behind the hands. I don't think, you get to have it go through body parts before you get to call it targeting. Some Minnesota people online, because I think I tweeted that as well, and some of them complained about that a little. I was like, no, it's a definition of targeting. I'm like, well, you start eating these shitty targeting calls like we have for over a decade, and then when they really are just lousy, that it's like that one was, that it's just more ridiculous. But let's see, hide that up, and there we go. And then we go to halftime, but the only problem was they slip in that 71-yard run, which gets them down to like the 10 or whatever. They score the touchdown. They're up 7-6. And my halftime recap, I said I wasn't feeling great at that point, because I said now we're dragged into a Minnesota mud fight where they're just gonna slog it. It's just gonna feel like you're playing in a swamp a little bit, where you just quite can't get going. And they turned it into a Minnesota game. Whereas if we get a couple of touchdowns there and we're still up 14-7, I still feel like that's not a if you're heading for like a 28-14 game, I don't feel you're like in the middle of a Minnesota slogfest or whatever. But then in the second half, we go 7 for 24, 7 plays, 24 yards and punt, 3 for -3 yards and punt, 6 for 12 and punt, 7 for 38. It's pretty much over by then. Turn it over on downs. Fred might found that weird, because we always, like on the 4th and 1s, and where we can't push Houston Christian back or push Akron back, but we're trying to do that to Minnesota. You know what? Let's just inside handoff out of the gun to him, right up the gut. Bam, no gain on it. As my friend said, a play they probably could have cared less if they stopped us or not, because we were kind of slowly driving and just eating up clock anyway, and they were up 24-6, and so it was kind of done. And then end of the half or end of the game. And Minnesota, meanwhile, is starting off with a 14-play, 98-yard drive. I think it took 8 minutes, 43 seconds. TD, 7:47 TD, 8:62 field goal. And they control the clock for about 16 of those 23 minutes in between the first and last drive. And then after that, then they finally get a 3 and out and punt. I think they finally wanted to give they punted 4 of their first 5 drives. I believe it was 1, 2, 3, or let's see, no, they're 4 drive 4. Oh, I guess you don't really count. I guess the end of the half, or no, wait. Let's see, TD. Yeah, never mind. That's us, not them. So anyway, yeah, that second half, they just rolled us. And sitting up there was just painful. And if we did stop them, then the flag came out. I think the time where it was just the biggest kick in the ass was Andrew Marshall picks one off, runs it back, but the flag, I wasn't even watching it because I saw the flag fly, and Donovan Jones got a PI. And he was just like, "Yep, my bad." And so that happened. But we took a lot of penalties, and yeah, it's just that was the most frustrating half of football I watched this year, because even Michigan didn't just flat dominate halves like that. And Minnesota was a 4-2 team. They haven't looked particularly good against anyone. They didn't really appear to have. All their running backs so far are averaging like 3.5 yards a carry as a unit. I don't think anyone was averaging over 4. Maybe one guy that didn't carry it too much. Oh geez, what was his name that tore us up? He had only gained 253 yards so far this season. He was battling some injuries, but he was still only averaging 3.8 per carry. And before that 71-yarder, long run, 14 yards for the season prior to that. So yeah, all of a sudden here they are, just looking like just a slate of all Big Ten selections against us. And there's going to be a lot of soul searching probably done this week, and some ass kicking. Um, let's see. Okay, one thing, Rocco Spindler, we'll start by just talking about the offensive line a little right now. To be fair, I'm going to throw a wild idea out there. Now, not that it's good by any means, not that, they're a hidden treasure. They're not, but it's not as bad as it looks either, because they were only responsible for about 3 of the 9 sacks, the offensive line was. You had 3 missed blocks by running backs, and then you had possibly 3 or 4 sacks that they said, I think PJ would have called them coverage sacks, and Matt was calling them Dylan holding the ball too long sacks, and which he owns up to as well. And Holgerson says I've got to get better play calling when they're attacking like that. And but anyway, Rocco. In addition to that, Rocco Spindler goes out early with a broken finger, and then Pritchett gets the penalty, gets ejected for the targeting. So now you're down 2 starters in the middle of the second quarter, and and at that point, tight game, and then the second half starts, and they roll through us, and we took a sack on every single drive of the second half. So the 5 sacks there, and maybe 6 for the half. I'd have to check. If you didn't hear, 9 sacks is a school record for Minnesota. They were looking that up right behind me, and I'm just like resisting the urge to throw an iPad at him. But anyway, Rocco is cleared to play. He had to go immediately and have surgery. They took him straight to the hospital when he came out. And so he had surgery. It went well, and he's cleared to play. And the way Rule described it is, it's just a matter of pain tolerance. Now, first of all, I think a guy named Rocco is going to be suiting up. And damn the pain tolerance. But I'm telling you, I was just cringing, because you think about how much offensive linemen use their hands. This could be a really painful day for Rocco. So if he plays and goes the distance, man, use the force and give Rocco a pat on the back, because that's going to be something else. Vincent Shavers went out. I guess he was kind of questionable. He didn't show up on the report, but I guess he was kind of questionable. Gave it a go, and then he was taken out fairly quickly, I think, in the first quarter, and Marcus Trent Watson went the rest of the distance and finished with 11 tackles, I believe. So, nice job filling in. And also, when it comes to tackles, Javen Wright goes over 10 tackles for the 4th straight game. I think he led the team with 12. So Javen's been tackling everything in sight. It started with Michigan. So good for you, Javen. But yeah, the O-line, I think you had Pritchett and Spindler replaced with Corcoran and Tyler Kanak, I believe, Kanak, and Turner looked all right. I think he graded out okay. I don't think Tyler looked too good. I think it was his first really extended action against a team not Akronish or Houston Christianish. And it kind of looked to me like he struggled, but I'll freely admit I wasn't watching Tyler Kanak any play, but when I focused, he looked to be having a hard time. So yeah, I think it made a difference. I do. And what's funny is, kicking my own ass, I wrote an article last week on, hey, let's give the offensive line a little love, because they had a great game against Maryland, who supposedly had one of the Big Ten's better pass rushes, and we only gave up 1 sack, no hits in that game. So I thought, hey, they did a fine job. Emmett rushed for 176. Let's pat these guys on the back. So it was kind of disappointing to see that all fall apart so hard in 1 week. Now, one thing that Matt Rule did add yesterday, is that so Dylan, they kind of credited him for evading 4 or 5 more sacks, where he was really running for his life, made some nice moves, got out of there, and got a throw off, or at least turned it into positive yardage. So let that stew a little, and I don't know who they were going to blame those 4 or 5 on, but now that let's say if those were all offensive line, eesh. And I will have it posted up in the morning. This week's survey question, I'm first asking what our record will be going out. I couldn't believe so many people, and a lot of this was from outside Nebraska, going, hey, team that can, still maybe make the playoff, get that 10-2 record. Like, okay, first of all, you shut up. Every time that's been brought up, that I think we're 0-2 when playoff talk is at its all-time high. So let's just stop with the playoff talk for this year. Who knows? Maybe we go 5-0. But even then, like in the last week or two, I'm looking at that last 5. Those aren't easy games, man. It's like you got Northwestern. They're 5-2. They're 3-1 in the Big Ten. They've won. I think they've won 2 or 3. I think they've had 2 straight shutouts. Maybe I know they shut out Purdue, so that doesn't look so easy. And I think next is Southern Cal out there. Minnesota's like cutting a swath through us. Southern Cal's offense is a top-notch offense, one of the best in the country right now. Then you got UCLA that's like winning and beating the tar out of people. What did you say? It's like, yeah, UCLA and Northwestern are the teams that basically, got James Franklin fired and are, they're not losing to anybody. It's like, okay, we're still not quite to the laydown gown. Then guess what? You got Penn State at Penn State, and one thing I remind people of is when we did fire Scott Frost. Okay, next week, everything's still in shambles. You've got all new, you got a new head coach. Everything's kind of a mess, and they get spanked by Oklahoma, and then I think they got the bye week after that, and they actually were competitive the rest of the year. They still lost a bunch of games near the end of the year, to miss bowl eligibility again. But again, it's like the 1-score games. They suddenly got competitive after losing to a Northwestern team that would be their only win in a 1-11 season, losing to Georgia Southern, which only was semi-embarrassing because they did end up, I think, 6-6 or 7-5 and went to a bowl. Dicked around with North Dakota, not even North Dakota State, and then just got pounded by Oklahoma. So that they kind of turned it around. So you might look for that with Penn State gone, with Franklin out. I think as somebody described it, like one of the reasons Franklin had to go was the stadium had turned toxic. Like this had turned into a stadium, let's face it, Penn State, Creep City, that's just booing the shit out of their own team. They are harassing James Franklin in front of his young children. And at that point, it's like something's got to happen because things can't go on like that. And so, there we are. Let's see. Trying to think if I had anything I wanted to mention. Rule, and I will do it as well, threw a shout out to the I'm just saying, look for Penn State to turn it around. And then you got Iowa, who's beat us 9 out of 10. So, that's where I'm going. Is a 3-2 might actually be really good down the stretch against that group. But check that, and then after that, I put in one like what do you think happens with the offensive line the rest of the season? Do they improve, get it fixed? Do they not improve? The sacks keep coming, but they hang on to. They decide that it's best to hang on to Raiola and fix everything internally, or does it fall apart? They decide to let Donovan Raiola go, and we wait with bated breath to see if that affects the future playing here of Dylan and Dayton Raiola in a year or two. So anyway, check that out. Go ahead and vote in that poll, and then I usually get that published by Friday or so. Sometimes just depends when I get it. If I get it late Friday, I'll do it Saturday morning. But they'll SB Nation will doll it up and make it pretty for you. So let's see. Special teams. He said special teams is still doing great. He said if you watched him, they punted out of bounds all night to Barney, except at the end when we were already up a bunch. And he said you could see him practicing their out of bounds punts in the warm ups, and that's where he's kind of like, that's a little special teams thumbs up. You're making him dick around, because punting it out of bounds can be some tricky business sometimes. And Archie had his first really big night. He had 5 punts for averaging 44.6. Booted, because it's like he's been going with his left most of the year, but he booted a 53-yarder with his right foot that night, and then he also had one that they downed on the 2. So he had a huge night. One stat I didn't like, and we took a lot of penalties, and we're coming up against Northwestern, who has 199 yards and penalties on the season. in 7 games. So what, about 7 times? God, what was this? I guess that would be like what, between 20 and 30 yards a game, and we've got 310. That's not so awful. That's about, that's still more than you want, though, because that's getting up about 50. And, it's not good playing Northwestern, where they're looking like the more disciplined team. Let's see those for a tweet. So Dylan actually didn't have such a bad game for running for his life. He was 17 of 25, which is a 68% completion percentage, decent. 177 yards, no TDs, but no interceptions, and there's something to be said for that, being he's thrown 5 in his last 3 games, and finally got the goose egg for interceptions back on the board, and on a night where you probably expect to see an interception or two, just from being frustrated, running for your life, and just starting to get a little desperate with the throws. So good job on the interceptions. Emmett Johnson still had a decent night. He carried it 14 times for 63 yards, 4.5 a carry, and then also caught 5 passes for 37. So he finished with 100 total yards. And the only problem was no play longer than 12. So he didn't get loose at all, and that's what you really want to see. Not a big night for the receiving core, obviously, with 177 yards. And Isaiah Hunter led with catches. He had 5 for 40 yards. So he'd been the big play guy for a couple of weeks, and they held him to an average of 8 per catch. And then Luke Lindenmeyer caught 4 for 52, averaged 13, including a 26-yarder. That might have been the long one of the night. No, it's not. It was Quinn Clark, the Husker legacy, Ken Clark's son, who had the 1 catch for 43 yards. That's a couple times he's caught one deep and taken off with it for some serious yards after the catch. And you got to believe he might be getting some more looks, getting some more chances. But both of his catches were big time catches. So don't forget Quinn Clark, guys. What is he? About 6'5", 210. Has the speed. So let's go ahead and check the comments before we get into a little Northwestern preview. Perpetually says he's a fan of the horror movies big time. Probably shocks Fred. Okay, Red Wine 65. I like this. He gave us the list. Halloween 1, yes. Omen, yes. The Shining, yes, but not my favorite Shining, and I love. I've already told it, so I won't again. But the Stephen King, Stanley Kubrick shit fight over The Shining and how he went completely away from the book is one of the best, true stories of an author and a director really just going at each other. The Exorcist, yes, and The Thing, and he just popped one of my favorites, the Kurt Russell Thing. The new one is still called The Thing. And what it is actually is a prequel. Came out about 10 years ago, and it's a prequel to the John Carpenter one back in 81, 82, when I was in high school. And we just thought that was the coolest freaking horror movie with the best ending, with Keith David, one of my low-key favorite stars, the record holder, still I think record holder for longest on-screen fight with Rowdy Roddy Piper and They Live, another fine John Carpenter horror movie. But yeah, I love The Thing. Good one. Somebody got one of my 3. I like it. And then perpetually gave a little arrows up to those choices. I think a lot of people agreed with those. What do we got here? Toxic Avenger was fun too. Mom didn't know what no rating meant. The NR. Yeah, I don't know how much is that a horror movie or a comedy? I was never really sure. Let's see. I haven't seen any more of the Fred impersonators yet. It's kind of shitty, but at the first jab, it's a little funny. But yeah, it gets old quick. Yep, didn't forget The Shining. He had that listed there. And High Mountain Guy, Nebraska Football is a horror movie. We're still on topic. Yeah, I sure felt like I was bleeding at times in that second half. I can't disagree. Faces of Death, pirate VHS distribution at its finest. Yeah, yeah. The supposed actual the alleged actual snuff film. Yeah, Fred says, my friend Pitt and me and my friends rented Faces of Death from the Vineyard in P-Town back in high school. Sick, weird shit. Yeah. Pitt's night, yeah. Pritchett was just dumb. He needed to sit anyway. Yeah, I thought for that. It was stupid, but it was 15 yards stupid. I'm not going to rail him ridiculously, but yeah, the thing that got me was, you know what? I could see somebody getting frustrated if there's some shit talking in the second half. But man, we still had a game going and we're going for a touchdown. That's just not the moment. But if we remember, Ben Scott had issues with that, I think, as a junior, took a couple of two or three unnecessaries or late hits or whatever, going well past the whistle, and then cleaned that up his senior year. Yeah, more shit for Pritchett. Stephen Fromm says, who's the best character in the Nebraska horror movie? I don't know. And I don't like to pick on the kids, especially ours. I guess I could pick on some on the other team. God knows I did it to Tim Tebow, that annoying jagoff. Yeah, Pritchett is the only guy who can get targeting on that. He could fuck up a wet dream. No, he's not. Any Husker can get a targeting at any time. The Nate Gary bowl game against UCLA taught me that. Let's see. God, they're still talking about passing around their Faces of Death tape. What else we got here? God, Duncan Aviation guys. Oh, let's see. Got another one too. There we go. All right, had another fake Fred dive in. He is ganja. Let's see. Yeah, the Husker horror movie started after the 2003 Colorado game. I tell you what, I don't remember the year, but I did an article proving incontrovertibly that our 37-3 win over Colorado helped put that program in the ground a hell of a lot more than the 2003 program did ours. And I won't recount it all for you here, but let's just say after that game, after that season, they only had 2 winning seasons in their next 20 years. We never got near that shit. We win, Colorado loses. If you're looking, I'm doing the DX suck it, 37-3, and then Texas came in and mopped up the pieces 70-0 in the conference title game the next week. So let's see. Oh, here's a fun stat. Thanks, High Mountain Guy, for making the night even better. They had more sacks than we had points. In 143 years, they didn't find a team shit enough to give up 9 sacks. I would be surprised if they've been recording sacks for 143 years, though. So it might not be that bad, High Mountain Guy. It might only be about 80 or 90 years. Would you accept Barney Cotton as a replacement coach? I might have taken 2003, but no. Is Barney Cotton still alive? That would also work against it. Let's see. And then, yeah, I mentioned he said in the presser it could have been another 4 or 5. Let's see. I'd take Barney. Okay. Pitt Snipe take Barney right now. If nothing else, he's good for the locker room. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put this up like a silent fart that never leaves the room. Fake Fred lingers. Well, I got rid of the latest one, so we'll see if he comes diving back in. What else we got here? Nope. He wasn't awesome, and God forbid we get another one of his kids. I remember that was the last one we had. It was the tight end, Sam Cotton. And he, for me, was kind of like A.J. Rollins. It's like I never saw him really in high school, like, do anything that really jumped out. And I'm like, that doesn't really, if you can't jump out in high school, I don't think it's going to suddenly happen in Division I, and it didn't really happen for either of those guys. Probably perfectly nice guys, I hope it went well, but yeah, those were 2 that just from the jump, I wasn't expecting big things of. And I actually said from the jump, when he was like a 190-pound linebacker and Nebraska made him a preferred walkout, I said, I think you'll see, before you see A.J. Rollins in there, on the field for meaningful downs, you will see John Bullock. And then, holy shit, I was right. But it's like, yeah, I actually wrote articles of him like in the spring games before Rule ever got here and he ever really saw the field. And I said, this guy explodes to the ball. And in games like the spring games, he looks like he belongs with the first unit. And I think he's breaking up passes against Oliver Martin. And so, yeah, I just saw the way how explosive he was in high school. And yeah, we will see him before we see AJ. And we did. So good for me. That's why I'm here, y'all. Let's see what else. God, we got a Barney talk going now. And like I said, I didn't know if he was still alive. Let's see. 10X Shooters, hi 10X Shooters, says the team doesn't trust Rule anymore. It's falling apart. Well, we'll see. I thought Ohio State was going to strap 100 on us last year after the Indiana game. So he's got a track record of getting their shit back together. So we'll see. I just remember Cotton is the last decent coach we've had. I don't know. I thought, but yeah, I think you'd have to look at Bo's record and say that was decent. I don't know. That's a little much. Let's see what else we got here. I think we got. Do we have another one? Let's see. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, let me go. Start skipping through here. All right, let's see. Even Pit Snipe says, even when we were hot garbage, the former coaches somehow at least got a few linemen into the NFL. How poisonous is Uncle Donnie to NFL draft rooms? I don't know. We'll see. Cam Jurgens comes to mind. Let's see. Okay, Dustin says, I'm going to be honest, I thought Dylan should have been sat for a series or two. I'm not saying Lateef is the guy, but something needed to change. Yeah, but I don't think you pull, because like I said, it's not like he's getting picked off this time, and he's still completing it, and he's holding on to a few, but I don't think I don't think you bench your quarterback because your running backs can't protect him. I don't think you sit the quarterback for that unless he's getting hit so much he's getting kind of dingy, and that happened. I think was that Michigan State. I think they said that happened a little. As he thought that Dylan was getting a little loopy at one point. Let's see here. Fred says, thing is, we've had offensive linemen who are so at best here, but got to the NFL and had long careers. Gates is still I think the Eagles. Is that where he's hanging around with? The big dude who went to the Viking, Jurgens, who got good after forever. Now, the thing is, he was murdering people his junior year, but that was the year he was having trouble with the snaps, and then he got that picked up. Let's see. Well, yeah, but Uncle Donnie is not popular in the NFL. Oh, I don't know. I had not heard that. Interesting. Okay, here we go. Let's see if Fred got an answer. It said, yeah, what's Donnie's NFL unpopularity deal? Did he piss someone off? No sack. I just think his philosophy is bad and his development is worse. I don't know, man. And again, I look at, and I don't think he made it to the NFL, but who was our dude who was just lousy, the tall dude, not Corcoran or Teddy, and got to honorable mention All Big Ten after just being like ass, his freshman, sophomore years. And so that thought that was a case of some decent development there. I'm not trying to make light of what's going on, but I don't think it's a case of he's just stunk all along. I always thought his lines always improved over the season, like especially when Rule got here. I always thought they improved from the beginning of the season till the end of the season. Let's see. Skip down a little here. Barney had a heart transplant. Okay, that was it. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Do they even try to keep El Itchy next year? I'm sure he will go to the highest bidder he can get. Who is El Itchy? So is that like Dylan's going to transfer or Latif's going to transfer. Because, Latif you might wonder about, but here's the thing is he came in, he was recruited with the starting spot set. So I don't think he'd run away. I think he came in, knowing it's probably 2 years. Billy C in his 70-10 loss to Texas Tech. That was one of the roughest one. That was when they put in, I think, Bo Davis, who was this like 6'5", and they listed him at like 190, but it was more like 6'5", probably 155. This guy looked like a bobblehead with like the helmet on top of a pipe cleaner. His neck was so skinny, and he was something like 1 of 7 with 4 interceptions. He just kept coming in and getting picked over and over, and Billy sending him back out there. Yeah, I think the highlight of that game was Mark LaFleur ran a punt back for a touchdown or a kickoff back, and that was that was the offense. Yeah, that was brutal. Leach was just letting him have it. I gotta wonder if Pritchett's looking at a pay cut next season. Yep, the bang on the Pritchett drum is open. Let's see what else we got. Here we go. This is something I was going to bring up, and we'll roll it into the next part here. Is Northwestern is absolutely danger zone. That's all this team should worry about. I think that's all they will worry about, because it sounded like from Rule talking that he didn't think he got the message across that here's how Minnesota plays. Well, he came out Monday and he said Northwestern is going to play the same damn way. They like to run the ball. They want to run the ball. They play very good defense. They tackle well, and it just sounds like if you haven't learned how to play that style of football, your next test is coming right up. So their quarterback is a senior, Preston Stone, and again, this is like reading about the kid from Minnesota. There's nothing really impressive about his passing. He's 111 to 187 for 1,213 yards. Completion percentage 59%. He's got 10 touchdowns and 7 picks. This is not, and he's been sacked 10 times. Now, I was thinking he didn't run the ball much because it said he's got 31 carries for 15 yards, but he's been sacked 10 times for -69. So if you take that out, he's had the third most carries on the team, and he's had 21 carries for 84 yards. So I get the feeling he can probably run a little. He's average quarterback size about 6'1", 215. And then their lead rusher is Caleb Komaloff, something like that. He's a 5'11", 210 sophomore, 107 carries for 487 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, along a 39 and 5 touchdowns. And the guy behind him is Joseph Hyman. Tough name. 5'9", 190, and he's carried 73 times for 360, an almost 5-yard per carry average, and at 37 long, no TDs. Now, the guy to watch, thank you, is the wide receiver. He's a goofy white kid. He's 6'2", 200. He's a junior, and he's got 36 catches for 516 yards, and no one on the team has over 15 catches. He is their guy. He averages 14.3 a catch, has a long of 49, and 4 touchdowns. He will be it'll probably, I'm guessing it's Sayre Wright. He'll be his responsibility, and shutting him down will be a key. Their punter's not too impressive. Only averages 39 yards a kick. Not impressive. So that could be an opening. But the thing is, those guys that kick short, unless he kicks it low too, and he's just awful, the guys that kick short are usually a lot of fair catches. So, and we want Jacory with time. Yeah, the dumbest punter I saw all year was that Michigan State punter, I'm sorry, who could boom it, and he just kept booming it deep. But all that was accomplishing was, hey, here we are actually using the term outkick your coverage for actual punting, and that's what he did. Like with Barney, when he had like the 4 returns for 120. Was that game, or was that Maryland? I thought that was Michigan State. Yeah, because he had the one called back too, or it would have been worse. And that guy just kept booing it past everybody, and Barney had like a 15-yard cushion every time he caught it. So yeah, big leg, but not a big brain there, Brad. look at the, or Brett, look at the big brain on Brett. Well, Brett the punter didn't have a big brain. Here's some little fun snippets for everybody tonight. Let's see. The last three games, last three times Northwestern's come to Memorial Stadium, they have been held to under 10 points. So, and that's been, I think, what, 22 or 23? 22? It's been a couple years, but yeah. And then right now, Emmett Johnson is now third on the all-time Husker list for receptions by a running back. And he has 75, and he trails Jeff Kinney with 82, who he'll probably pass in a game or two. And then Marlon Lucky at 135 is the leader there. And I was kind of doing the math in my head. If he keeps going at the pace he's going, he has a pretty good chance to catch Lucky next year. So keep an eye out for that. And then that's about, or wait, okay, 10 of the last 13 times we've played Northwestern, 10 of them have been a one-score game, and we all know how good we are in that. Although this year, what are we, 2-1? Or wait, no, because Michigan State wasn't. So 2-1, Maryland and Cincinnati, and then we lost to Michigan. So yeah, I don't know. This would be the first time in God how many years since we actually had a winning record in one-score games. But anyway, and guess what? It's the chase for bowl eligibility, and I'm telling you what Rule had kind of said about, there not being the respect that was needed going to play Minnesota. Weren't getting it from the fans either. Everybody wanted, everybody asking me what I thought, and well, what do you think? And I think the closest anyone had, it was 2 touchdowns. And I'm like, you realize they beat us 5 in a row. And we've been favored in most of those, if not all of them. Yeah, but look at this. And I'm like, yeah, but they get us in these knockdown drag. I mean, for God's sake, the COVID year, they rolled in, with like 13 players and played Iron Man and beat us. I mean, that was like 40. But yeah, rolled in with like half a roster and just dominated the game as everybody's mouths just hung open, and here we do it. Here we are again. So next, I have no doubt that next year they're going to come in here and now home field, and we're going to have a couple nice games, behind us, and we're going to watch the same thing happen again. Not like this, but no, we're not going to run up and down the field on Minnesota unless we have taken a whole philosophical shift on blocking and tackling. Because, and by the way, guys, this is what I've got. So I'm going to start looking for what you have in the comments. So throw out there, even if it's still the horror movies, and we'll see what we got. But that's what PJ Fleck does. It's like, no, he doesn't have a lot of flash, but what he has are teams that block and tackle. It's blocking and tackling first, and then the fun stuff after that. But he doesn't want to do anything until they block and tackle properly. And that's really what I thought I was watching in the second half, is just a team play basic football better. And then, well, I'll give some credit to their defensive coordinator. He, holy shit, he had them just flummoxed on who was going to be coming on the blitz packages, and then we couldn't hurt them with the run or the screens to make them back off the blitzes. So that's another thing that helped the sacks pile up, is they were free to just pin their ears back and go, and just okay, who are we sending this time? So, but the blocking and tackling, we'll see. I don't think that's as tough to fix, except John Butler before the game against Cincinnati was kind of throwing it out there that we needed to tackle better. So he coming out of the gates for the first game, he wasn't liking the tackling. It hasn't been a chronic problem, but it's reared its head a few times. Like you think that the long drive against Michigan, where here's a 3rd and long, and then guys just like missed tackles, and first down, and that was a 16 play, 8-9 minute drive. But anyway, let's see, what do we got here? He says Purge Maskey has won 4 straight. They're right on brand on how they work through a season. Our most winnable game isn't guaranteed. And I'll tell you what, David Braun, who took over for Pat Fitz, I'm exonerated Gerald, and no, you aren't, has done a great job. And he came from North Dakota State, where he was the defensive coordinator. So what do they do up at North Dakota State? Play smash mouth, block, tackle football, and I always thought that if the coaching carousels took Rule away, that's one of my crazy Loki picks is get him. It's like if he can win 7-8 games, I don't know if they got to 9 once, but with that squad and all the thing in the shit show he took over, that's one I'd like to see what he could do. With some horses, because they did a lot of big winning at North Dakota State when he was there. So, yeah. Okay, and then here we go. Cam Jurgens, talking about him earlier, had 3 different line coaches in his time here, then was able to apprentice under one of the best centers to ever do it. Yeah, Jason Kelsey. So that was a cool thing. Let's see. He says, I'm going to say it, and I don't really care. I don't think he sucks, but Dylan ain't that great. Blame the O-line. Blame whoever said what I said. Yeah, no, you're entitled to the opinion. I don't agree with it. I think he's an elite talent. He makes some throws that are just flat amazing at times, and I'd really like to see what could happen if he ever had time. And I mean, he's still one of the top quarterbacks in college football this year, and he's doing it not surrounded with the talent that some of the others are. Although that was the wild thing is last year, he had more time, but no one was open. He just didn't have guys that could get open. And now this year he's got guys that can get open, and he doesn't have any time. So I'm just like, hey, can we put that all together? I feel like he's got some horses at receiver now. Look, guys, can we please give him a pocket that he doesn't have to flee in under 2 seconds? Just my thought. But yeah, that's fine. You're High Mountain guy, you're not alone in that opinion. That's starting to float out there. Oh, he's not that great. I'm hearing that too. But I'm still thinking it's not his fault. And I think that, and also, you're talking about TJ Lateef, who I think is going to be a heck of a talent. But you're also talking about being badly impressed by what he did against literally the backups for the two of the worst teams in the country, or I guess one of them's a 1AA, but easily the 2 worst teams we played. So, take that with a grain of salt too. Let's see. Okay, here's one that I was actually going to ask. O-line, play calling, QB play. That's the order of difficulties in my mind. I would go O-line, D run stoppage, because they just had a team averaging like 3.5 yards a carry, average like 6 on them. I find, and quarterback play, you fix one, I think you see number 3 surge is what I think. But I would put the D line right after the O line, or say the D line and the linebackers, whatever, the run defense, and then I don't know if I'd throw the play calling in there yet, although I thought it's been generally so much better than last year. And look, and we were in like the top 10 in scoring there until this week. And so I'm not sure that I'm going to jump on the play calling, although, yeah, it wasn't great. But, when anything you call in the air is the quarterback running for its life, it's like you get kind of limited pretty quick. Okay, cool. Itchy's Pritchett. Okay, that makes sense for Vince's comment earlier. Let's see. Yeah, it's starting to come at Dylan here. I would just say, what do you think it would be right now? And I don't mean to blast on the guy because I love him and what he's done at tight end, but yeah, Heinrich Harburg. We're not. I don't even think we're 5-2 right now with him. I think the way Cincinnati beat us up, I think we lose that game. And I think we lose possibly Michigan State and I think Maryland too, because he just doesn't have the arm, and you remember those one-dimensional days when our scores were 13 and what do we average, like 16 points a game or something, down like the last 6 or 7. So no, I'm not ready to go there yet. Anyway, let's see. Oh no, I remember when Barney was an assistant coach. Oh, okay, I thought you were talking. Never mind. Yeah, I thought you were talking like the Solich year. But yeah, I'd forgotten that. I enjoyed him. He was a decent. He sent some guys to the league. Yeah, yep. Bo Davis. When I was talking about the Texas Tech beating, yeah, that was tall, skinny kid, and I think he left the program after that season. Holy moly! Wisconsin scores again was worse. Yeah, yeah, that was a game we were actually up 17-7 too. The turnover game with oh god, I was driving my daughter. I was listening to that on radio, driving Miley to she had a hockey game on when she was playing with the boys team down in Kansas City, and I was just like trying not to drive the car off the road. Man, that one was tough. Let's see. How many QBs? I would say probably 3, if not 4. I thought he jumped Bo Davis up the line a little. I thought he was the third one in, but I don't know. Here, let me tell you what. Let me split the screen, and I'm actually curious on that, and then I'll take a look here at the old Husker Max and see what we can see there. Hopefully everything's still working fine, and I haven't blown up the pod. But give me just a sec here, because what year was that about? Was that 2003? Let me take a look here. All right, Texas Tech. Okay. Oh no, there's one going 41-31. Looks like, okay, here we go. 2003. Didn't play him that year. 2004. Yep, 2004. 70-10 in Lubbock. And how many QBs they put on there? He had Joe Daly, Bo Davis. Maybe it was just those two. That's the only two showing through a pass anyway. Joe Daly, yeah. Daly was 14 of 34 for 187 and a pick. Davis, yeah, I exaggerated. Davis was 1 of 7 for 12 yards and 3 picks, and we even let LaFleur throw a pass and he got picked. So meanwhile, Sonny Cumbie was 44 of 56 for 436. Yeah, what were the total yards in that game? Because that's geez. They have the totals. So it looks like we had 199 passing and 93 rushing. So what, 292, and Tech had 523, 450 through the air. Holy moly. Okay, let me go back to a single screen here. All right, and I'm back on a full screen. Let's see. Race. Oh, people started firing away. Let's see. And Kevin Smith dropped that fumble. Yeah, that was the tight game. That was the one. Was that the one? No, that was against Kansas State when they tried to bring in the freshman sensation quarterback from Callahan's class, Harrison Beck. And the funny, if you want, go frickin' Google Harrison Beck and watch a couple of those videos, because basically he I don't know if he's still doing it, but I mean he's got to be about 300 pounds, and he makes videos of himself with his shirt off throwing heaters and offering quarterback advice. Holy moly. Let's see. We still had a positive turnover margin for the first time since Tomagotchi's. Yeah, Butler's a little upset because now we've gone 2 games without getting a turnover. Like, I think that was a 0-0 turnover game. Lost to Florida State and Lincoln. That was tough, but that was a good Florida State team. That was because they came here, and I remember Bobby Bowden. Down the years he credited Nebraska for Florida State's rise by agreeing to play them, because he said going up, and I thought did we split a couple of those, and he said going up there like put Florida State on the map for a lot of people and kind of jumped them up into the conversation. And then what, the rest of the 80s, you got that was one game that like teams, fans of neither team would tune in for, was the Florida State Miami game, and wide right, wide left, wide right, and Jesus. Let's see. In 22, the year of the onside against Northwestern. And then they just dominated the fourth quarter. Had like an 8-minute drive or something, and they won one game. That was one that I just got done. Popped an article. Went home. Played with the dog that I dog sat. And that was it. I was just so depressed. I just got the hell out of there. If you don't remember Coco, those of you that watching that night, I was dog sitting, and she just kept messing with me at my feet, and I kept ignoring her, and she just absolutely found that as unacceptable as could be, and then just hopped up and started getting in my face. And she's usually a happy little dog, but that is a face that just says, "You not paying attention to me is bullshit." So there you there you go with Coco TV. That onside one was tough to that one was tough to freaking deal with. 2003 Kansas State game. I poured a driveway hungover, puked in cement, then picked up a girlfriend and her dad and drove to the game. Got crushed right on the way home. Yeah, this is the one thing I love about Callahan, though, and then I think Bo did it once, was like that was the Josh Freeman debacle where he committed really early to Nebraska, and then Kansas State started throwing the money at him, got his dad a job with, like, I think it was the Kansas Republican Party, and he had no interest or involvement in politics, but got a paycheck from them. And then what kind of pushed it over the edge, because he was starting to waffle. And then we didn't get him, but it turned out that, Callahan was talking to a quarterback who was committed to Texas Tech, and he just wanted some, a safety net there. And if you found out one thing, Josh Freeman was too soft to handle, was any kind of talented backups, because they never recruited another quarterback while he was there, and then Nebraska destroys him like 3 straight games, like just harasses him, sacks him, wins all 3 of those games. One of the final Callahan game, I think, was they beat him like 70-28 or something like that, or 70-33, somewhere in that area. And the ultimate middle finger from Callahan to Bill Snyder occurs later in the fourth quarter. We are up already. We already got 70 on the board. We drive to midfield or beyond midfield, go backwards. I think penalties, who knows? But it was something like 4th and 20 on the 50, and we go for it. And it was, I don't know if it was a designed run or he just took off quick because the hole was there. But Joe Gans takes off, runs 20-something yards for the first down on 4th and 20, and then they take the knee. And yeah, then they weren't getting caught, but that was just the ultimate. Like, I could put 77 on you if I want, but I'm going to embarrass you by making a 4th and 20. And then the next year, I think Pelini came in, gave him his 3rd and final beating, and then he was off to a career in the NFL. And then it left Kansas State with like Carson Kaufman or something like that, and then we go down to play them, and I think he's a junior, senior, and he was like a 1-star recruit. So they've got no quarterback in the hole ready to go. It's just all garbage at quarterback at that point. And Kaufman, they're trying to run Kaufman, and he's just getting destroyed because he's not very fast. But we got Taylor Martinez, and he runs for like 250 something yards on K-State, and they start talking. He jumps to the top of the Heisman talk there for a couple weeks. But yeah, good times. Screw you, Josh Freeman, and screw you, Ron Prince. Enjoyed every minute of those games. Let's see. Oh, there's your 2017. This has turned into worst losses. 2017 versus Northern Illinois. Tiger says he's done making fun of PJ Fleck's capri pants. I'm still not going to stop making fun of him for dressing like a male cheerleader, with all his tight little fleeces and whatnot. Let's see. We're just checking through here. Yeah, man, if Dylan only had half a quarter to find an open man. Yeah, elite talent, 6 points, didn't find the end zone. Yeah, that was Matt Rule's first game with Nebraska where they didn't score a touchdown. And Joel Tilson, I'm not going to answer that because, like I said, I'm going to have a poll up tomorrow with that very question and like 3 different options to vote on. So I want to hear what you guys say as far as that. So, and you can comment on what your thought is on that. But please like go to cornnation.com and vote too. Hey, look, I have banners. Hey, so let's see what else we got here. The comments. Curse of Callahan. Yeah. The thing is, man, I say it to this day that he might still be there now if he just wasn't so determined to hang on to flipping. Oh God, the lousy defensive coordinator. I always my brain wants me to forget him forever. It's like I've been forgetting his name since like 2 years after he was gone. and he was awful. Let's see. Yeah, and see, and that kind of plays into the question too. It's like, and don't forget, you got brother Dayton, in the chamber too. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Donnie's failures are obvious. No one. Let's see. There we go. Donnie's fails are obvious. Nobody can deny it. We can count on Rule and Dannon to be diplomatic. Yeah, Harrison Beck. Wow, deep cut. We went nuts over getting that kid, and yeah, I don't think he played too many meaningful downs. I think once he was done, because he left pretty quick. I think he had a little Josh Freemanitis, and that he wanted to be the man and have no one on the roster who could ever possibly challenge him. And the thing is, yeah, that's the thing. It's like they're gonna pick a quarterback every year. You've got to know you're living in a world where there's going to be 3 other scholarship quarterbacks on the roster with you. If you can't handle it, I've got to say, and here's the thing: you can leave. Quarterbacks leave more than anybody else through the portal. They want to play, and you're going to have 70% of them change schools, and that's fine. I have nothing against that. If these guys want to play, let them go look to play, and hope they make a good decision. The portal usually isn't about money anyway. That more often that's wanting to play, and maybe, hey, the place you're at, you just never felt comfortable at. You just want a fresh start. Most of the players will tell you, they won't tell you their money, but they'll tell you, the money you're being offered is pretty close to what everybody's offering you. There's not really, everybody's got their like little actuary, their numbers cruncher, and so most of these guys are coming up with pretty similar numbers for all these guys. So they're not out there like to the highest bidder. It's like because they said most of these schools, once you start out, hey, we could offer you say $250,000 a year, and if they come back, well, I want $450, most of these schools are just gonna wish you well. They're like, look, we're piecing together a roster, and we have to do it to fit this budget, especially with the revenue sharing now, and that's just more than teams want to spend, and it happens, but it's kind of like the Nico Iamaleva thing where he asked for more money, left for Tennessee, went to UCLA, and now that's not looking so bad for UCLA. But people focus on that as every NIL deal or every revenue share. Well, I guess we haven't started that, but every NIL deal is like this, and it's just them begging for money. It's like, well, no, it's not. That's a big outlier. A guy making over $1 million. They're not all making $1 million, and most of the other guys, it's like your starters are going to make more, of course, and your linemen. My God, I mean, linemen and quarterbacks are probably the highest paid ones. And you better develop your linemen, because offensive and defensive linemen are the hardest ones to find in the portal, because they're usually where they're at, happy and well paid. And so the ones you're going to get are the ones who haven't played yet, who think they ought to be playing. But anyway, turning this into another NIL portal. Coach McBride said, you think we had better athletes than Florida? No, we had country chin bumpkins and whooped their asses. Yeah, don't kid yourself. Yeah, not a lot of your, some did, but a lot of your talent, like Tommy Frazier was from Florida. Was it Mike Rozier was from Jersey? Was it Johnny Rogers was I guess originally Southern California, and then I think he moved to Omaha just before playing football. But like the guys in the '90s, like a lot of the line was homegrown. I think Aaron Graham was from Texas. And we also did have some pretty hot ass local talent on those teams too. But yeah, you're not doing it all with Nebraska kids. I mean, Nebraska talent now is crazy considering where it was like 10, 15 years ago, where you'd have like maybe five, 6 kids in the state that schools would be interested in recruiting. And now you got Millard South with like 11 or 12 kids on the roster with D1 offers, which that many on a single team is crazy for Nebraska. Just to throw that out there. Oh, and Pit Snipe like Coco. Coco's is a very, very pretty, very, very playful, friendly dog. She's a Tiger says little Sheltie. She's a mini Aussie. She's a mini Aussie, so she's got that mini Aussie personality. Like you can almost see what's going on in their heads. Tom Osborne's team always had good or great line play. And they always had Milt Tenniper, Uncle Milty. I got to see Uncle Milty. He kind of looked like Hemingway. And every now and then, the ex-wife and I would go down to La Solomio, and he could be seen sitting in the bar waiting for a table, wearing his black Husker leather jacket. That thing was pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, well, those weren't back-to-back busts. Those were back-to-back backouts. Those were back-to-back commitments they lost, and they both ended up, starring for their college teams. But yeah, Freeman didn't like the pressure, and then and that was the thing. We busted Gabbert's ass every time we played him too, and it wore him out. I think I don't think it was a pick six, but that was one where Sue batted one up in the air, caught it, and I think ran it back about 20 or 25 yards. The favorite Sue, because Sue finished his career with I think 3 interceptions as a nose guard, and he had the pick against Colorado after, because people forget they still had the ball in plenty of time after Henry bopped the 57-yarder, and then Sue does that fake rush thing where he drops back. Guy Hawkins, Daddy's little quarterback, threw it. And he took it, ran it back, and all I remember is Guy Hawkins, that poor dumb bastard, thought he was going to go up and tackle Ndamukong Suh, and just ends up getting. I mean, he all but stopped and beat the shit out of him on one knee. But yeah, just slammed him down, ran out, stomped all over him. I was like, son, that was not one of your better decisions. This game is over. You're the starting quarterback. This is way worse than not sliding when you should. This is trying to tackle Sue. I don't know that. Oh God, I just don't know that I ever took more joy in anything Sue did. Collectively, of course, throwing Colt McCoy around like a rag doll was fun, but just for one play, that stomped Colorado's quarterback almost to death was one of the funniest things I ever saw. Stephen Fromm said, "Yep, Sue loves sacking Gabbert." Yep, here we go. 1998 in the Little Apple with Crouch. They broke a long streak, and then they ran us out of town. Yeah, they were shitheads, throwing shit at people as they were going back. They did not know how to deal with winning, and that was the one where the refs handed it to him on the 4th down when the guy literally turned his head around behind him with the hand on the face mask. You're talking 180 degrees. Referee right there, and just didn't have the balls to call it. That was ridiculous. Yeah, that one stunk. Yeah, Peterson fired Frank Solich after a 9-3 record. Yeah, I was fine with that. that night they had such a trash schedule that year. I just remember how huge the win over Oklahoma State was, and they weren't close to ranked. I don't even know if they finished with a winning record, but yeah, all 3 of the teams kicked their dicks in. Who was it? Because unranked Texas beat them 38-0, and I think K-State beat them 38-7. Game was never close, and that was the one where Snyder went in and scored another, pumped another touchdown on him after the game was over, and Pelini went out and let him have it after that one. Frank Solich was he was hanging in there with old players, some old coaches, and Eric Crouch. And once Crouch was gone, there was the losing record. And then the 9-3 record was much like when the 10-4 or maybe 10-3, but that Riley had. But every good team just trashed him, and it was one of the first 2 years, or actually all 3 of his years. I did an article on this back in the day. Were 3 of the easiest schedules in Nebraska's history, and he still managed to have losing records. Let's put it this way. Said it before. Look, I like Frankie, but Frankie, every coach in the Big 12. Oh, how can they fire a guy like Frank Solich? It's when coaches are bemoaning the guy's firing, it's because they're sad to see him go because they know they can outcoach the guy. He gets no offers the next year, and the second year after that, I think he got to go down and get one of those. What do they call them? Advisor jobs down in Oklahoma, and then he gets offered the job with the worst team in the MAC, and that is because everybody he's 52-19 or whatever. It's he was 52-19, and the best job opening he got was from one of the worst teams in the country. So that should tell you what his value was on the open market for people that thought he was just going to start winning. It was on a downhill slide. Man, here we go. Manhattan, Kansas is trash. Thank you very much, Fred. That's why we've got him here. Yeah, there we go. Kevin Cosgrove. and I'll forget by Friday. I swear, it's my brain just wants that name out of my head. Let's see. Yep, everybody's giving me the Cosgrove. Justin Rogie is saying that Manhattan smells like literal shit. Yeah, you know what? I don't mind bashing on Kansas State. Let's see. Yeah, Cosgrove couldn't make sense of the teams using the spread offense. The worst one was that Okie State game, and I think they were down like 38-7 at the half, and were just scoring at will. And then you watch what's going on, and then there's somebody, I was getting kind of the little revolt under Callahan, and especially Cosgrove, were sending out as a person who was still inside the program and had his little short list of people he'd email stuff going on. And if you went back and watched that game, here was what Cosgrove had ordered his linebackers to do and his defensive backs was just back off 5 yards every snap and read. So they were literally just throwing pitches, and dude would just run up 9 yards untouched and run out of bounds just anytime they wanted, because everybody's backing up. They were so worried about the passing game that they just gave up the running game, and then they couldn't stop the passing game. It was a nightmare, that game. Me and a buddy, they have those big yellow little beer tanks they'd put on your table. I don't know if they still have them. I haven't had beer in a long time, but at Tanner's, and we drank one of those damn things by ourselves, the two of us. It was just made to take. That was just, take the pain away, please. Let's see. Prince and the Power Towel, video. That was some cringe shit, you bet. I remember that. Yeah, but Prince liked his attention too. Let's see. Yeah, Nico, I believe in Nico, I'm a leave you. Yeah, that was like, oh, give me more money. And they were like, no, you don't get more money. And, it's like, yeah, he exercised his right to ask for more money. They exercised their right to move him on to a new school. And, the process played out. Let's see. Oh, Gary Pierce. Here, more. Let's get Latif. Seeing TJ sitting over there reminded me of the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They don't want TJ to play in any reindeer games either. If you ask me, Rudolph should have kicked Santa's ass. Well, yeah, that's a true freshman who's your backup quarterback. And when asked if the plan was to redshirt him this year, if you make any say he got it, because he's gotten into his 2 games and can do 2 more. But if they were they going to not effectively bench him till a bowl game or whatever, and if he got to 4 games, and Rule said absolutely not, he's the backup quarterback and he will play as he's needed. And so there's that. So I like I said, I don't know that I'm putting running for the life on Raiola. You could make the case that TJ could get away a little better too, but I don't know. It's like I said, you've only seen him against the worst players on the 2 worst teams we've played. I think he's gonna be fine, but let's not throw him into something he may not be ready for yet if we don't have to. That's kind of my thought on it. Frost 4-3. Is he 4-3? I knew he'd won a few, so yeah. Hey, you know what? If he's happy, that was also the case of the guy. The guy probably didn't want the job, but I know like Osborne leaned on him because it sounded like he was just perfectly happy where he was. And let's say we don't offer him the job, does he go to Florida and probably learn what real misery is like with a lot more distractions? If he's back where he's happy, I just try to remember like the good times in '96 and '97, and remember him as the player, put the coaching thing behind us, and I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Pritchett is a moron making $1 million. Let's see. TSD, stay. We ain't done. Uh-oh, is Tiger going to leave us? Well, if you did, bye. Let's see. Pritchett, God needs the money to buy antibiotics. All right, let's ease up on our boy. You'll hear it from me. Is like, to me, they're kids. So I'm not going to try and do them too dirty. But if it makes me laugh, I'll put it up there. So I'm not that great a person. Okay, Andy, let me believe. I know Dr. Rob Zavska. Yeah, Dr. Rob. Let's see. Tom Osborne made 3 4-star players into champions. Yeah, most of his tenure, there weren't really 3 and 4 stars yet. The recruiting was just something you read in the paper. You didn't have rivals going yet. So, what he was a very good, let's put it this way, at evaluating talent. And if he was doing it, he'd be the guy who'd see, because I'd say one of the best examples of that, and this was Bo, I believe, with Amir Abdullah, or not Amir Abdullah, or am I thinking Amir Abdullah? No, I am thinking Amir Abdullah from Alabama, and he had a 5-star out of Texas and a 4-star out of Ohio, but they saw him and in Alabama's backyard didn't recognize him for the 2-time All-American talent he was. So, there you have it. And speaking of older guys, see Levante David still going at it. His senior year was 2011, and he's 35 years old, and he's still playing at a high level in the NFL. That's insane. Good for you. Good for you, Levante David. It would be nice to have a quality offensive line. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I mean, the last time we probably would have been, I'd have to look for my favorite one because they put a few in the league, but they had some solid offensive lines under Bo. Nothing like Osborne, but they had some good offensive lines under Bo. Let's see. Our great teams were always a mix. A lot of O-line, some D-line, and linebackers were Nebraska kids. Skill positions, Cali, Texas, Florida. Yeah. And then but then you had exceptions in defensive backfield. But then you had exceptions because you had, Warfield wasn't from Omaha, but you had Cluster Johnson, receiver. Let's see. And you had Crouch. Trying to think. Now, Dan Alexander wasn't from here. I was trying to think of any other running backs, quarterbacks that were. But I can knock my head on that later while you guys don't have to sit there and stare at me going, yeah, Omaha has turned into a factory. Yeah, we don't get the first shot. There was one year, I think, where it was a top 10, and we got 4 of them, and people are like, what the hell? And they're like, yeah, Miami's in Nebraska scouting. Georgia took the private jet and got it as close to Ainsworth as they could to visit Carter Nelson. Also, Carter Nelson, I get the feeling that they think he should be stepping up. I know he's a redshirt freshman, but to listen to the coaches talk sometime when his name comes up, you can tell they want him making his move now. That they think he's that kind of talent, and for whatever reason, he's not quite putting it all together yet. Maybe just coming from a small town, it takes a little longer to get used to the whole. I mean, Lincoln's got to be huge. Is it Ainsworth? I think it's Ainsworth, and that could be an adjustment. Who knows? Does she punt left and right-footed? I wish I knew what he was referring to. I thought, oh yeah, Archie does, but I don't think you're being accidental about the she. Let's see. Osborne turned non-qualifiers into qualifiers. Yeah, and then Texas came in there and changed that rule around. It was I think it was you can only recruit from JUCOs in your state, and Texas with just monster JUCOs. Then they got rid of that qualifier stuff that made Jared Tomich possible, and took that away, and that was something that Nebraska took advantage of. So yeah, Texas came in and just kind of said we're getting rid of some of the stuff that Nebraska does better than we do, and we're just going to all vote it down together. And Tom Osborne tried to warn him. I know you all think it's being cute and funny since we've been beating all your asses for so long, but you're going to be hurting yourself in the end. And guess what they did? What's the Big 12 now? It's a mid-major. It's full of mid-major schools. And hey, are they bad? No, but it's mid-major football's very good, but when Texas and Oklahoma left, that was basically the end. Yeah, Texas wrecked the conference with all their silly little demands, and then ended up, all right, yeah, this place is shit. I'll see you. Head to the SEC. Oh, Texas, I don't miss. It's like the Big Ten. I'm not a conference guy. I've never been the yay, because first it was Big Ten, had a few good years of bowl records. So then they were like Big Ten and everybody at these bowl games. So then SEC started punching back, and now got the whole SEC chant. And I don't care, man. I hated fucking my enemies, and I hated my fucking enemies in the Big 12. I don't like them in the Big 10. I don't go and cheer for the Big 10 in the bowl games. Who cares? It's the end of the year. Who cares how it helps your ranking? This is the one game left. No, if Michigan's walking around like a bunch of freaking stuck-up prisses, then no, I want Michigan's ass kicked in that bowl game. I'm not just, our conference record. Eat it. I don't care. Oh, there you go. One of my favorite movies. Watched Varsity Blues the other night. Bud Kilmer's looking to get back into coaching. Look, all that dude was doing was winning district titles. Piss on him and his district titles. And also, I just don't think it's quite right to have a coach who basically throws the Hitler out like 15 minutes into the movie to silence the crowd. Yeah, Sue killed. I always think of that Rain game too. And Niles Paul. And that was like, oh, who was that? What's his name? Lee was Zach Lee had a night that night, that fourth quarter, and hit Niles Paul on a couple of deep ones for touchdowns. But yeah, love that game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Gabbert came out of the game, but Gabbert, I think, was limping for several days after that. Yeah, Joel says, yeah, Sue was a beast, and you could bet your ass that Blaine Gabbert knew it. Yeah. Oh, we got one, Fred. We got a Fred. Sue swatted Hawkins down like Bielema on a server in the Cold Stone Creamery. Yep. That Huskers beat Texas. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What? Yeah. Sue not winning the 2009 Heisman was a joke. Have not followed it since. I got to be honest. I don't watch it as much anymore. It would probably take Nebraska or my 1A team, as you guys that watch me know, Georgia, to win. So yeah, if Gunner wins a Heisman, I'll watch that. My God. Let's see. Yeah, but what's the funny thing was that they have the Heisman voting broken down into like 6 different regions maybe, and Texas is its own region, and Texas was the only region that voted for Sue. So yeah, Texas knew what they saw. What else we got here? I really hated the Buffalo Chips. Hawkins, loved watching him get flung around like a rag doll. So did I, Stephen Fromm. So did I. Nope, Frank needed another season after 2003. Never got a chance to see what the rebuilt staff could do. He had a lot of great players on D. 2005 would have been a killer D. I don't think it was trending that way at all, but we can disagree. Crouch went to Millard North, 10.39. Hundy is still a record, but I think his senior year, like he still ran the fastest one, but I think his senior year he got beat by Erwin Sweeney, Nebraska cornerback. I think beat him at state. But then Crouch won the 200. Yeah, Crouch could flat fly. Holy cow! Yeah, I'll always love the Crouch to Thunder to stunts to Crouch play against Oklahoma when they were, I think, 2nd and 3rd in the country. But man, that one where he like went back in the end zone avoiding the rush and then took it to the house. I just remember that. It looked like some 300-pound defensive lineman making a game effort, about 20 yards behind him, and then his head just started going in a full bobblehead wiggle at the end. He couldn't even hold his head straight. Yeah, even Crouch wanted out of Solich's locker room. Frank had to go eat shit in Omaha just to keep him. Yeah, and that was his thing of like, but Bobby's coming back from an injury, and Crouch had clearly, even what I'd heard later is Crouch had clearly been the best QB in practice, but Newcomb wasn't back at full speed yet, but Frank wanted Newcomb to stay stay one. And I still remember at the California game when they were in town, he's got Crouch playing receiver, and Crouch, they did a middle screen, Newcomb got it to him, and then Crouch took it like 50 yards. The place is going crazy. And you look, and here's Bobby Newcomb with his helmet off and his head hanging down, just walking off the field because I think it was like next game Crouch started, but you had to feel bad, and Newcomb ends up being a hell of a receiver and like the best punt returner in the country, I think. But yeah, he always felt bad because it was just he hadn't gotten back full speed from I'm pretty sure it was a knee injury. Let's see. I'm not so sure, man. But, I mean, I will say this: that here's the thing: the defense would have been better just by virtue of Cosgrove not being there, but I think the offense would have been a lot worse. I mean, yeah, I think I think it would have kind of evened it out. But both would be crap. Let me put it would have been crap too. Let me put it that way. He was just one of those guys on the sideline. Like, I don't know if you guys saw Aliens, and he every time games got tight, like Pete Carroll was terrible in close games. Like, his eyes would get really wide, and his mouth would hang open a lot, and I call it the Lieutenant Gorman and Aliens face. And Frank had that same face in tight games, eyes open, mouth hanging down. And one of the stories that I had heard about him was that he would have teams like they said, game prep. You practice like 15 or 20 plays really hard. Like, these are going to be our bread and butter. And Frank would have them practice like 60 or 70. It was kind of nuts. And it wasn't when Crouch was there, it was fine, because he could overcome a lot of that just with his abilities. And then, then you got Jamal Lord, who, was basically, here's one of the silly things they did is they recruited Carl Crawford as a quarterback and then just shut down quarterback recruiting. I thought that was just one of the most insanely dumb things I ever heard, because Carl Crawford was going to play baseball. It's almost always, if they're getting if they're going to be a high pick in baseball, they're going to go play baseball, not football, because they're not going to get beat up. They're going to make more money, whatever. And who's the quarterback from Kansas, like a small place in Kansas? It's kind of the same thing. Ended up playing baseball. I think he may have gotten a cup of coffee in the majors, but I finally gave it up a few years ago. Oh God, I can't remember. No, I can't remember. They played on ESPN one night, his high school team. But no, but yeah. So then Jamal Lord, who Solich admits would have potentially been like a 2-time All-American strong safety, said that's what he wanted him for. But suddenly they're Carl Crawford. It's like, well, why are you putting all your chips on a guy that, like, everybody in the state is really hoping he plays football, but knowing he's going to play baseball? So no, here he is just shooting himself in the foot there. And Jamal Lord had his moments, but that was you didn't have a passing attack at that point. It was I think his best game was when they almost beat Texas. He ran for about 220 yards. And then I think they tried to have him throw one more and got picked or something like that. I might be wrong on that. I just remember I thought we had a chance late, and then something like that happened. But anyway, I just know I just thought he never had a head coach mentality. I thought his best days were as an assistant coach. Let's see. Yeah. From I don't know what the first part was. Newcomb wasn't the same after the knee injury. Tentative isn't. Yeah, and it was probably like late in that season when he got back to full speed. But by then, Crouch had sewn up the job, and Crouch they both had surprisingly good arms. At the end, Crouch I think he'd been through shoulder surgery. So yeah, because there was the one time where they won the Big 12 title game against Texas, 21-7 in the revenge match. After that one where they outgained Texas like 500 yards to 280, but fumbled it like 3 times and ended up losing. And so then they won 21-7, but he only threw 7 passes because his throwing shoulders in so much pain, and then had to have surgery on it after the season. Let's see. Anyone worried about Northwestern? Yes, we're all extremely worried about Northwestern. They're basically Minnesota. If we haven't solved the things we were screwing up against Minnesota, then Northwestern might do the same damn thing to us. They like to run the ball, they tackle well, they block well, And yeah, they're 3-1 in the conference right now. So and 5-2 overall. I'd be worried. I am worried, but we'll see. Yeah, firing Frank wasn't so much the problem. Is they fired Frank, and this was Peterson, and this was just like Frank screw up with the quarterback recruiting. Here's Steve Peterson. You're the only AD in the country at that point that probably doesn't have his list of names ready to go of would be interested in the job if it came open. Everybody has that, whether they need a head coach or not. It's just the guy can get hit by a truck. You want to have some guys, the list of guys that are willing to talk to you at least, that have said yes. If that opens up, I'd be interested in talking. Okay, and he didn't. He had no idea. I think he just thought Dave Wanstead was going to do it. I remember he had hit or something, and he just assumed he was going to come away for Nebraska. No, and then God, who was the Arkansas coach that they flew into York and everybody tracked the plane from Arkansas, and they thought they were being really sneaky poo about it. God, yeah, and then that was because Callahan was like his fifth choice. So you fired Frank, and that's fine. I agreed with that. But you fired Frank with no plan going forward. You didn't have anybody ready to take the job, or at least that gave you the vibe. No one's going to promise you I'm jumping, unless it's a case like DBK and John Cook, where she's like, I absolutely want to take over for you someday. And isn't that a wonderful thing to have, a wonderful bullet to have in your holster? But yeah, it was like, firing Frank, agree. Hiring Callahan, never coached college, and also treated it like this was professional stuff, and you had to make appointments with his secretary if you were one of his players and wanted to talk to him outside of practice. Because I remember, like, Bo had said after he got the job that the secretary came in and asked how he wanted to schedule player appointments, and he's like, "What do you, football players?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, they're my players. If they want to talk to me and and no one's in there, tell them to go on in. And if if there's someone in there, just kind of wave, and then I'll let them know if it's going to be a couple minutes." But other than that, he's like, "No, my players get to see me whenever they want to." And he kind of freaked out that Callahan made them get appointments. He's like, "Geez, no, this is my team." So that was a whole mess there. But I still say his offenses were becoming top 20, 25 offenses, and he might have, if he'd ever just could have let go of Cosgrove, he might still be there today. I don't know. That's my feeling on how good the team could have been. If you're asking me, Solich versus Callahan is, and then that turned out to be a thing, with coaches like, I think you had Bo with, oh God, who was the Papuchas, like giving him a D1 linebacker job straight out of being a grad assistant at LSU. And then then making him defensive coordinator a couple years later. So defense is always kind of a mess under Pap. And yeah, it's like it's just but they were buddies. And then here was Mark, what's his name, the guy who's so vanilla I can't even remember his name just because it doesn't matter. But Riley's defensive coordinator, wouldn't get rid of him. But then when it happens, he's forced to by the most beta male to ever have a high-ranking job at a university, Sean Eichhorst. Like, actually, this is how soft Riley was Sean Eichhorst, of all people, leaned on him to hire Bob Diaco. And then with John Cook on the field, like, makes all the other coaches go to a football practice and then points to Diaco and goes, "This might be the finest coach standing out here today," and just like insults the shit out of more than one coach on that field. But anyway, yeah, good comment there, Fred. Like from the non-Camp Kenosha variety, because that brought back a lot of memories. And he asked me if we knew it was going to be Callahan, would I still stick with Callahan at that point in time? That would be like, that's coin flip territory. All right, I'm going to see if I can speed through, not just because we're approaching 2 hours, because I'm down to about 5% here. So that's bad on me, but that's all right. I feel like we've talked about a lot tonight. Let's see. Scott is 16-31. That's all. and I would take his 16-31 All-Star squad, and it would just trounce Riley's, even though that record's a little better, because Riley took over a Bo Pelini coach team. Scott took over a Mike Riley coach team. So yeah, he had a lot farther to bring it back, and when he did, and all here, like Riley's, as far as like the strength, speed, and et cetera, Riley's was downhill, and at least Scott, while the record was downhill, the Matt Rule had a team that could at least be on the field physically with people, and not just just be tiny and slow. So I'd die on that mountain. Let's see. Yep. Fred, you got a friend. The bars in Lincoln don't miss Scott Frost. Yeah. Well, some of them might. Who knows? If he was putting down some money, I don't know. Let's see. At least with Solich as head coach, you didn't have to worry about the team physicality for the most part. Well, I didn't think you had to do that with Callahan either. It felt like they had some talent on D, but just some of the weird things they do out there. Let's see. Dr. Rob can still bench 345. See, I want to know what Eckler can bench, because he and Compton were out there busting 225, and I thought that Compton did it like 18 or 19 times, and Eckler did it 15 or 16 times, and he's like mid 50s now. Yeah, that'd be something. Yeah, Pelini and Scott Frost hated recruiting. Yeah, that's fair. And I don't think Solich is just very good at it. Let's see. Yes, Pitt, that was the problem. Stevie P came in. Unfortunately, Frank had shat on him, and Stevie P was sniffing jocks as a recruiting coordinator. Then PD paid Frank back in 03. Yeah, that 03 9-3 season, it wasn't as good as you think. It like I said, the best comparison for that season for me is the middle season, the second season for Riley. I think they either won 9. I think they won 10 games, but every team they played that was worth a damn just shit all over them. There was a pair of weak schedules. Let's see what we got. Okay, Dan Alexander's from St. Louis. That's what it was. Callahan did. John Blake was a recruiting machine, but then they made him a head coach at Oklahoma, and that was, I think, that was in the late 90s. And one Blake the coach when we were beating him like 66-3 and all that. Let's see what else we got here. Texas wrecked the Southwest Conference, then the Big Eight. Yeah, because they just walk in and do it all our way, Bubba. That's why I always love Eric Dickerson in the Pony Excess 30 for 30, and he was talking about the recruitable, because he did the most hilarious thing is before signing day, Texas A&M's got him, and they got him a Trans Am, and they gave him the Trans Am before signing day, and then on signing day he signs with SMU, and Texas A&M is livid, but what are they going to do? Complain that he didn't sign with them after they gave him the SUV? It's like, yeah, he'll probably have to sit out a year, but Texas A&M is gonna get the hammer like SMU did. But he was out. But he was telling the story of how he was out on a recruiting visit to Southern Cal. He liked Southern Cal, and Texas had been recruiting him hard. And apparently, one of the Texas Bubbas, and he tells this story in the 30 for 30. One of these Texas Bubbas apparently threatened him, saying, "Man, you don't sign with a Texas team, then we're going to fix it so you'll never work a day in your life in this state if you ever have to. You'll never get a job." And Dickerson said, "Well, I made up my mind right then and there. I ain't going to Texas." And then he like gave double guns to the camera when they were filming it. He's like, "Fuck you." And so that had to be like the worst attempt at intimidation by a Texas booster in history. It's like he gets I think he got cussed out on the phone probably, and then he shows up in a ESPN show 40 years later with Eric Dickerson flipping him off on national TV. I'll always enjoy that. Let's see. I remember the debacle of a night whiteout. Yeah, PSU in 2002 that the Minnesota game reminded me of. Yeah, and that's when we got friggin' destroyed by them. Oh, and that night that you had Frank Solich making Lieutenant Gorman face for like the first 60 minutes of clock almost. Yeah, Jamal Lord. Oh, yeah, Jamal Lord. It was faster and stronger, but yeah, not in his arm. That they when they rolled out there with him, sometimes it was like if they just put 8 on the line and dared you to run, you were in trouble. Let's see. Those Big 12 mid majors would very likely beat our asses. Yeah, well, we beat one of them at the top of the conference right now, so I'd say it wasn't an ass beating. But I'm just mostly talking about the names because who's left from the old Big 12? Iowa State, Kansas State. That's about it, isn't it? I think of like Big 8 or even the Big 12. Unless the Big 12 though, like does Baylor's maybe Baylor's still in the Big 12. So I think those 4 are what's left of the Big 12. But yeah, you look at the university names on all the others. That's they literally just poached them from mid-major conferences. That's all I was saying. And like I said, sometimes these mid-major schools can take it to you. And Northern Illinois, certainly one year did, but I'm just saying that conference, I believe, like I don't know if you'd consider West Virginia one. But I'm trying to think what conference were they ever in, like the ACC or something like that? Because otherwise, I kind of considered the Big East kind of mid-major, not quite. We weren't really using power conferences back in the heyday of the Big East with like I think Louisville, Rutgers, schools like that. Connecticut, UConn was pretty good there for a while, but I always felt like it wasn't quite SEC, Big 10, Big 12 at the time. Pac-12 at the time, so yeah, it's not going to matter. And I would say in 2 to 3 years we're just going to have like a super league with like, I would say anywhere from 35 to 60 teams, and probably a conference realignment where it's just north, south, east, west, or whatever, and the fun names are gone. Yes, I believe the Macavickas played 8-man football. I believe they went to an 8-man town. I played 8-man football. I loved 8-man football. 1990